This is Land of Havilah, 2 Kings 18. The Assyrians completely conquered Samaria and deported the people to captivity, switching attention now to Judah and reversing time 6 years before Samaria fell. Verse 1. Now in the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, Hezekiah, the son of Ahaz, king of Judah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abi, the daughter of Zechariah. Comment: Hezekiah arose in Judah. He was son of Ahaz, king of Judah, who was a complete disaster. He sacrificed his children by fire, made molten images of the Baals, set an altar in front of Yahweh's temple that he copied from a temple in Damascus, and sold, dismantled, and altered a lot of the holy objects at the temple. As a result, Yahweh was against him, and he suffered pressure from the Edomites, Philistines, Israelites, and the Syrians, and had to offer himself as a vassal to the king of the empire of Assyria. Ahaz died at the age of 36. That's using the numbers of 2 Kings chapter 16 and 2 Chronicles 28. His son Hezekiah was 25 when he began to reign, which would make Ahaz 11 years old when Hezekiah was born, so possibly there was a transcription error. Anyway, Hezekiah's Judah, when he started, was much reduced in size, power, population, moral integrity, wealth, and independence. Verse 3. He did that which was right in Yahweh's eyes, according to all that David his father had done. Comment: David was 12 generations back, but he was still the standard by which all others were measured. Hezekiah did right according to all David did. Verse 4. He removed the high places and broke down the pillars and cut down the Asherah. He also broke in pieces the bronze serpent that Moses had made, because in those days the children of Israel burned incense to it and called it Nehushtan. Comment: Yahweh commanded for Moses to make a bronze serpent in the wilderness, Numbers 21:9, but of course Yahweh never intended Israel to worship it. That was about 700 years ago. There's been no more mention of the bronze serpent since, but now we find that Israel has kept it because of its connection to history, and now they've begun to worship it. Hezekiah had the good sense to destroy it. He, quote, broke in pieces the bronze serpent. Verse 5. He trusted in Yahweh, the God of Israel, so that after him was no one like him among all the kings of Judah, nor among them that were before him. Comment: When it came to trusting in Yahweh, there was no king like Hezekiah before or after. He was the GOAT, G-O-A-T, greatest of all time. He is now the standard by which all others are measured. He couldn't have come along at a better time. Verse 6. For he joined with Yahweh. He didn't depart from following him, but kept his commandments which Yahweh commanded Moses. Yahweh was with him. Wherever he went, he prospered. He rebelled against the king of Assyria and didn't serve him. Comment: He joined with Yahweh, or more literally translated, he clung to Yahweh. This was exactly the central commandment of Moses, quote, you shall cling to him, Deuteronomy 10:20. In the days of Hezekiah's father, the surrounding countries were chipping away at Judah, and Hezekiah's father ran for help to the Assyrian king. He pledged Judah as a servant nation to Assyria and started paying regular tribute. In exchange, the king of Assyria defeated the king of Damascus, but otherwise he didn't help, 2 Chronicles 28:21. That was a situation Hezekiah inherited. Hezekiah stopped paying because he decided he wanted to serve Yahweh and depend on him for defense and not the Assyrians. It was a major act of faith because Judah was very small and weak at the time compared to Assyria. Hezekiah trusted in Yahweh, who said through Moses, quote, I will make you the head and not the tail. You will be above only and not beneath if you listen to the commandments of Yahweh your God, Deuteronomy 28:13. Hezekiah was trusting that Yahweh would miraculously convert Judah, which was on the very bottom, to the top. 2 Chronicles chapter 30 goes into a lot of detail about the reforms that Hezekiah made as soon as he took the throne. He cleaned out the temple, which was full of, quote, uncleanness, unquote. It seems that there were actually idols in the temple, and the wording of the text was so delicate as to avoid saying it directly. Certainly the temple doors were shut. There were no regular sacrifices going on as prescribed. There was no organization or regular service to Yahweh among the priesthood, and there was no observance of the Passover in large numbers. But Hezekiah got everything organized and turned around, and the people followed after him in that very gladly. They got rid of the random altars and places of worship in Jerusalem, and went from there throughout Judah and demolished the high places, as it said in verse 4, something that had not been done in the history of the kings. So the country was completely revitalized, and the people re-inspired and re-energized. Coming up, in addition to refusing to pay tribute to the king of Assyria, verse 8, he struck the Philistines to Gaza and its borders, from the tower of the watchman to the fortified city. Comment: the Philistines took the south of Judah and a lot of the cities of the western foothills during his father's day, but Hezekiah recovered all that and invaded Philistia all the way to Gaza, which was on the Mediterranean coast. Coming up, a restatement of events from the last chapter, verse 9. In the 4th year of King Hezekiah, which was the 7th year of Hoshea son of Elah, king of Israel, Shalmaneser, king of Assyria, came up against Samaria and besieged it. Comment: Assyria besieged Samaria in Hezekiah's 4th year when he was 29 years old. We read about the siege and the fall of Israel in the last chapter. It wasn't the fall of Judah, verse 10. At the end of 3 years they took it. In the 6th year of Hezekiah, which was the 9th year of Hoshea, king of Israel, Samaria was taken. Comment: this put the Assyrians on Hezekiah's doorstep. Still in verse 11. The king of Assyria carried Israel away to Assyria and put them in Hala and on the Habor, the river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes, because they didn't obey Yahweh their God's voice, but transgressed his covenant, even all that Moses the servant of Yahweh commanded, and would not hear it or do it. Comment: we knew about all that. Hezekiah was 31 years old when Samaria fell. Now fast forwarding 8 years, verse 13. Now in the 14th year of King Hezekiah, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against all the fortified cities of Judah and took them. Comment: there's been some turnover on the throne of Assyria. It was Tiglath-Pileser who took Gilead and Galilee, then Shalmaneser who took the rest of Samaria. Now it's Sennacherib who's attacking Judah. Even though Hezekiah and the nation of Judah are serving Yahweh alone, cities are falling, but Jerusalem is still standing. Hezekiah thinks he needs to reach out for terms of surrender as we go to verse 14. Hezekiah, king of Judah, sent to the king of Assyria to Lachish, saying, I have offended you. Return from me. That which you put on me I will bear. The king of Assyria appointed to Hezekiah, king of Judah, 300 talents of silver and 30 talents of gold. Hezekiah gave him all the silver that was found in Yahweh's house and in the treasuries of the king's house. At that time Hezekiah cut off the gold from the doors of Yahweh's temple and from the pillars which Hezekiah king of Judah had overlaid, and gave it to the king of Assyria. Comment: the king of Assyria demanded a certain amount of silver and gold, and Hezekiah sent him all he had, even cutting the gold plate off the temple doors. Apparently, if Hezekiah was scrounging that hard for gold, he wasn't able to come up with the full amount, but he was hoping the king of Assyria would settle for what was on hand. Coming up, that won't be enough to turn the Assyrians away. Hezekiah would have to wonder why Yahweh hasn't bailed him out already, but to his credit he kept the faith. Verse 17. The king of Assyria sent Tartan and Rabsaris and Rabshakeh. Comment: those are the commanders of 3 Syrian divisions. Sennacherib sent them, still in verse 17, from Lachish to King Hezekiah with a great army to Jerusalem. They went up and came to Jerusalem. When they had come up, they came and stood by the conduit of the upper pool, which is in the highway of the fuller's field. Comment: the 3 Syrian commanders have arrived at Jerusalem with a great army. As we find in 2 Chronicles chapter 32, Hezekiah has made extensive preparations to defend the city, and he's preached a wonderful sermon of faith in Yahweh. Even though the war is going very badly on the whole, the people of Jerusalem responded with good cheer and good faith. Speaking of the 3 Syrian captains, verse 18, when they had called to the king, Eliakim the son of Hilkiah, who was over the household, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah the son of Asaph the recorder came out to them. Comment: 3 of Hezekiah's men came out to talk with the Syrians. The Syrians will speak first. They're going to be speaking in broken Hebrew. so there's a little loss of clarity in what they're saying by the time it's translated to English. Verse 19. Rabshakeh said to them, Say now to Hezekiah, Thus says the great king, the king of Assyria, What confidence is that in which you trust? You say, but they are but vain words, there is counsel and strength for war. Now on whom do you trust that you have rebelled against me? Comment. He says, Who do you think is going to save you from the great and mighty Assyrians? How did you come up with the idea that you have any chance against us at all? Verse 21. Now behold, you trust in the staff of this bruised reed even in Egypt. If a man leans on it, it will go into his hand and pierce it. So is Pharaoh king of Egypt to all who trust on him. But if you tell me, We trust in Yahweh our God, isn't that he whose high places and whose altars Hezekiah has taken away, and has said to Judah and to Jerusalem, You shall worship before this altar in Jerusalem? Comment. He says, Either you must be counting on the Egyptians to come up here and defend you, which isn't going to happen, or you're counting on Yahweh your God, but you've broken down his altars. He was referring to the high places that Hezekiah destroyed. So he's saying, Where's your salvation? It's not going to be Egypt, and it isn't going to be Yahweh. Verse 23. Now therefore please give pledges to my master the king of Assyria, and I will give you 2,000 horses, if you are able on your part to set riders on them. Comment. The Syrian captain is making an empty bet with the Judites for the sake of rhetoric. He's betting 2,000 horses that Jerusalem doesn't have 2,000 men able to fight. Deliverance won't come from Egypt, it won't come from Yahweh, and it won't come from strength of numbers, he says. Verse 24. How then can you turn away from the face of one captain of the least of my master's servants, and put your trust on Egypt for chariots and for horsemen? Comment. What are you thinking, he says. Verse 25. Have I now come up without Yahweh against this place to destroy it? Yahweh said to me, Go up against this land and destroy it. Comment. He's speaking falsely in the name of Yahweh. He says Yahweh told him to destroy Judah. Verse 26. Then Eliakim the son of Hilkiah, Shebna, and Joah said to Rabshakeh, Please speak to your servants in the Syrian language, for we understand it. Don't speak with us in the Jews' language in the hearing of the people who are on the wall. Comment. The meeting is taking place outside the wall but within hearing distance of it. The Syrians are speaking in broken Hebrew, and there are Jews standing on the wall overhearing the conversation. Eliakim wants the Assyrians to speak Syrian so the men on the wall won't understand and be discouraged. Verse 27. But Rabshakeh said to them, Has my master sent me to your master and to you to speak these words? Hasn't he sent me to the men who sit on the wall, to eat their own dung and to drink their own urine with you? Comment. Rabshakeh said they ought to hear. They're the ones that are going to be drinking their own urine and eating their own dung when the siege sets in. Verse 28. Then Rabshakeh stood and cried out with a loud voice in the Jews' language, and spoke, saying, Hear the word of the great king, the king of Assyria. Thus says the king, Don't let Hezekiah deceive you, for he will not be able to deliver you out of his hand. Don't let Hezekiah make you trust in Yahweh, saying, Yahweh will surely deliver us, and this city shall not be given into the hand of the king of Assyria. Don't listen to Hezekiah, for thus says the king of Assyria, Make your peace with me, and come out to me, and every one of you eat from his own vine, and every one from his own fig tree, and every one drink water from his own cistern, until I come and take you away to a land like your own, a land of grain and new wine, a land of bread and vineyards, a land of olive trees and of honey, that you may live and not die. Comment. Rabshakeh says it won't be all that bad. We'll have peace starting today. All of you can go home to whatever city you live and go back to life as normal. We'll eventually come in and relocate you to another land, but it will be as good a land as this one. Choose life and not death. He's still talking, still in verse 32. Don't listen to Hezekiah when he persuades you, saying, Yahweh will deliver us. Has any of the gods of the nations ever delivered his land out of the hand of the king of Assyria? Where are the gods of Hamath and of Arpad? Where are the gods of Sepharvaim, of Hena and Ivah? Have they delivered Samaria out of my hand? Who are they among all the gods of the countries that have delivered their country out of my hand, that Yahweh should deliver Jerusalem out of my hand? Comment. Rabshakeh says, We win everywhere we go. Mesopotamia, Syria, Samaria, and none of the gods of any of the people has ever stopped us, ever. Yahweh won't be any different. Verse 36. But the people stayed quiet and answered him not a word, for the king's commandment was, don't answer him. Comment, Hezekiah had them prepared. Verse 37. Then Eliakim the son of Hilkiah, who was over the household, came with Shebna the scribe and Joah the son of Asaph the recorder to Hezekiah with their clothes torn, and told him Rabshakeh's words. Comment, it's either deportation or death according to the Syrians. Hezekiah's men were discouraged as they brought the king the report. 2 Kings 19 is next at landofhavilah.net, 2 Kings 19. This is the map of 2 Kings 18. This is Judah. The Philistines were based on the coastal plain. From the Philistines, Hezekiah reclaimed the south of Judah, the western foothills, and pushed the Philistines all the way to Gaza on the coast. Assyria took what was left of Samaria here in Hezekiah's 6th year. In his 14th year, the Assyrians came after Judah. Sennacherib the king was in Lachish of Judah, which was under siege or already fallen. From there he sent 3 captains and a great army to Jerusalem to intimidate and negotiate. The Syrians claim they beat the gods of Hamath and Arpad in Syria, plus Sepharvaim, Hena, and Ivah in Mesopotamia and Samaria. 2 Kings 19 is next.